Saludos y muy buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Pedro Acevedo del Federal Contracting Center. Y primero que todo, un millón de gracias por darnos la oportunidad por estar aquí con nosotros durante la tarde de hoy. El- Hoy vamos a estar cubriendo los requisitos básicos de ciberseguridad dentro del gobierno federal, dando la atención especial a lo que es los requisitos del Departamento de la Defensa y la importancia de que todos ustedes ya se vayan preparando porque ya sabemos que en 2 semanas, si no cumplen con los requisitos, no van a poder aspirar a ningún tipo de contrato con el Departamento de la Defensa. Así que eso es lo que vamos a estar cubriendo hoy. Le doy también muchísimas gracias al grupo de Project Spectrum que nos acompaña hoy y son el recurso principal del taller que se ofrecerá en inglés. Y también al Colegio de CPA de Puerto Rico, principalmente al capítulo de tecnología. Con nosotros se encuentra el presidente Rodolfo. Rodolfo, si quieres dar una bienvenida.
Sí, cómo no. Buenas tardes a todos y muchas gracias, Pedro, por la introducción. Voy a hacer parte en español y parte en inglés, así que muy
Claro.
buenas tardes a todos. Déjenme aclarar que, ¿verdad? Soy el presidente del capítulo de Río Piedras del Colegio de Contadores Públicos Autorizados de Puerto Rico, y es un verdadero placer darle la bienvenida a todo este público a este taller de cumplimiento crítico sobre ciberseguridad. También agradezco al CPA Néstor Quelcado, que también me acompaña, que es miembro de la Junta de nuestro capítulo de Río Piedras y también copresidente del Comité de Tecnología e Innovación del Colegio de CPA. Néstor jugó un rol fundamental en unir a todas estas organizaciones que hicieron posible este evento, como el Federal Contracting Center, Apex Accelerator Project Spectrum y la comunidad de inteligencia artificial en Puerto Rico, PRAI. Así que ahora voy a cambiar un poquito a inglés. Eh, and I'm going to switch to English to say that as CPAs and business professionals, we are constantly entrusted with sensitive financial and operational information. So understanding cybersecurity and federal compliance requirements, such as the CMMC, is not just a technical matter for us CPAs, it's a professional responsibility that reinforces trust, transparency, and business resilience with our clients. So today's session will allow us to explore how compliance, technology, and innovation intersect to create value and new opportunities for both contractors and accounting professionals. Lastly, I want to thank again the Federal Contracting Center for the invitation and for their commitment to education and spreading awareness on such an important topic. We'll definitely take advantage of this opportunity to strengthen our knowledge and build a more secure and competitive business ecosystem. So thank you a lot for the invitation, and let's enjoy this session.
Gracias,
Adelante.
Rodolfo. Gracias, Rodolfo. Gracias, Néstor. A todos y a todas. La primera parte yo voy a cubrir brevemente una introducción sobre nuestra oficina para que sepan quiénes somos nosotros, por qué estamos haciendo esto y que sepan que estamos aquí en la mejor disposición en el momento que sea necesario para acompañarlos a ustedes en todo esto. Así que con eso dicho, nuestra oficina, el Federal Contracting Center, es un departamento del Desarrollo Económico y Comercio de Puerto Rico, auspiciado y en acuerdo colaborativo con el Departamento de la Defensa. Nuestra única misión, nuestra única razón de ser es uno, y es colaborar con ustedes, ayudarlos a ustedes en todo lo relacionado a ventas al gobierno federal, ya sea desde los registros básicos para poderle vender al gobierno federal, entiéndase SAM, todas las certificaciones de Small Business Administration, entiéndase veterano, Hobson, 8A, mujer empresaria, así como todo el proceso de cómo venderle al gobierno federal. No importa el tipo de agencia federal, estamos aquí para ayudarlo en todo el proceso, no importa qué. Aquí tienen un listado de los servicios que ofrecemos, pero lo más importante es que ustedes sepan que estamos aquí. Si es ventas al gobierno federal, aunque no esté incluido en el listado, por favor nos dejan saber. Y la probabilidad que tengamos la habilidad de ayudarles es altísima porque esa es lo único que hace nuestra oficina. Dentro de eso cubrimos ¿qué? Los requisitos de ciberseguridad. Y cubrimos los requisitos de ciberseguridad desde la parte general. Tenemos el apoyo de otras agencias. En este caso tenemos el apoyo del Departamento de la Defensa a través de Project Spectrum, y que es quien nos va a estar acompañando durante el día de hoy. La presentación, cualquier duda, cualquier pregunta, por favor, simplemente las dudas y preguntas las ponen en el chat y las vamos a estar contestando sobre la marcha. Al finalizar, vamos a abrir los micrófonos, cosa tal de que ustedes puedan también hacer las preguntas que ustedes deseen. Las pueden hacer tanto en inglés o en español. Si las hacen en español, pues las podemos traducir. Cuando hablamos de ciberseguridad dentro del gobierno federal, es importantísimo que ustedes estén mirando que esas subastas que ustedes están evaluando para cotizar, o esos contratos que ustedes tienen, existe una alta probabilidad que en la subasta o en los contratos ya tenga incluido una cláusula de seguridad, de ciberseguridad, que cuando ustedes firmaron ese contrato o cuando ustedes firman esa subasta, ustedes están ya garantizando, juramentando, certificando que ustedes cumplen con todos esos requisitos. Y el certificar una cosa que no es cierto, pues ustedes saben las consecuencias, ¿no? Y esas consecuencias, pues ninguna es buena. Por tal razón, uno de los llamados es que los que tengan contratos actualmente federales o los que estén actualmente revisando contratos federales, subastas, verifiquen bien esas cláusulas. Y si las tienen y están certificándolo, hay que ponerse al día de inmediato. Si no tienen esas cláusulas, muy probablemente en un periodo muy cercano, en el caso de defensa, en noviembre 10, esas cláusulas van a empezar a comenzar a aparecer, y los que ya tengan contrato con defensa, ellos muy probablemente van a hacer una enmienda a los contratos indicándole que ustedes tienen que estar en cumplimiento. Así que importantísimo. Y el llamado a acción es ¿cuál? Que revisen. Si tienen dudas, que nos dejen saber. Al finalizar vamos a estar compartiendo nuestra información de contacto para ayudarlos también a revisar sus documentos. Si es que ustedes no encuentran las cláusulas, nos podemos sentar, los podemos revisar e indicarles cuál es el paso a seguir. Pero como les dije, noviembre 10 llegó el momento en el caso del Departamento de la Defensa que dijo, si no estás cumpliendo si no te has hecho la autoevaluación y has subido el score de esa autoevaluación en una base de datos del gobierno del Departamento de la Defensa, el Departamento de la Defensa simplemente no puede otorgarle a ustedes un contrato. Y eso es cuando, noviembre 10, que eso ya mañana. Y cuando digo mañana, ¿verdad? Esto ya en 2 semanas lo tenemos. Así que con eso dicho, nuestra oficina lo que quiere es asegurarnos que las consecuencias de no estar en cumplimiento las podamos evitar. Que ustedes puedan entrar, que puedan cumplir, que no se les pueda ver afectado las subastas que estén cotizando o los contratos que ya tienen. A la misma vez, esto aplica a cualquier subcontratista y todo esto lo va a cubrir Project Spectrum en su presentación. Todo lo que se cubra hoy puede ser que conlleve costos para ustedes. Este slide es algo súper general, esto lo va a cubrir Project Spectrum, pero lo que les quiero dejar saber es que hay alternativas. Y tienen alternativas, todo depende el nivel que esté su compañía actualmente, el tipo de requisito que se les requiera a su compañía. Así que puede ser que ustedes estén en cumplimiento hoy, dependiendo del nivel, o si no están en cumplimiento, hay diferentes alternativas que se pueden llevar a cabo para reducir esos costos. Y es algo que lo podemos hablar sobre la marcha. Pero para eso, nuestra oficina trabajamos en la forma general. Trabajamos en la parte de dejarles saber los requisitos, compliance, y podemos darle sus primeros auxilios, pero nuestra oficina no somos expertos en ciberseguridad. Para eso tenemos tenemos a la compañía de Project Spectrum, que es una compañía, aunque es una compañía privada, es una compañía auspiciada por el Departamento de la Defensa, que les ha solicitado y está auspiciando Project Spectrum para que pueda proveer toda esa ayuda ya directamente. Ellos son los expertos, ellos son los especialistas en ciberseguridad y proveen diferentes servicios. Tienen una página que mejor no puede estar para ayudarlo a todos ustedes, tanto de hacerse la autoevaluación. Nosotros le podemos ayudar con eso. Ustedes lo pueden hacer directo o definitivamente lo pueden trabajar con ellos a través de referidos que nuestra oficina le haga de ustedes a ellos. Así que nosotros, como trabajamos con Project Spectrum, le hacemos referido de las compañías que nosotros entendamos que están listas para trabajar con ellos y será un placer hacer esos referidos de parte de ustedes una vez nos pongamos de acuerdo. Pero ellos ofrecen servicios de adiestramiento, educación, apoyo técnico en todo lo que es ciberseguridad. Y con eso dicho, aquí tienen la información de nosotros, pueden utilizar el código, el QR code que ven en pantalla, el dejarnos saber cómo le podemos ayudar. Con todo esto dicho, Michael, I'm transferring the presentation to you. Thank you for being here with us today, and thank you for your commitment to Puerto Rico, just to ensure that our companies are ready to meet all the CMMC compliance. All yours, Michael.
All right, thank you. Thanks for that introduction. And before I get started, I'll hand over introductions for Gus to do on our behalf for Project Spectrum, and then I'll go ahead and get into the presentation. So, Gus.
Yeah, sure. ¿Se escucha bien para todos?
Sí, todo muy bien.
Ok, perfecto. Buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es Gus Sánchez, soy de Project Spectrum, soy parte del equipo de ciberseguridad. Soy el main POC para la conversación en español. Así que cualquier cosa que se necesite yo puedo ayudar. Soy parte también del grupo de Certified Assessors en CMMC. Soy parte de los 350 asesores que estamos evaluando las compañías y estamos expidiendo esos certificados de nivel 2. Así que he estado trabajando mucho este año en assessments. Y también soy parte de ese grupo reducido de los que podemos hablar compliance y cybersecurity en español. Somos aproximadamente 10 personas en el US. Muy pocas personas podemos hacer esto, pero la ventaja ahorita con el programa que tenemos en Project Spectrum es que podemos facilitarles ese apoyo a ustedes. Así que feliz de estar aquí y esperando poder colaborar pronto.
All right, thanks, Gus. All right, that being said, I'll go ahead and share my screen here and get things started. All right, so thanks again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of our webinars that we provide here at Project Spectrum. Today we'll talk about CMMC, the importance of it, how it benefits you, the consequences of not being in compliance, typical pitfalls, some examples of FCI and CUI, along with the different types of assessments as well. And so I ask that any questions you do have, go ahead and type them within the chat. My colleagues, Gus and Jen, will be able to answer those questions as I go through this presentation. But once it gets to the end, we'll save some time for you guys to ask your questions as well if you haven't had a chance to type them or had them answered within the chat. So just hold off any questions for now, but feel free to type them in the chat as I go through this presentation. And then at the end, we'll go ahead and answer any questions that may have been answered yet. All right. Before I get started, let me introduce myself. So my name is Michael Christian. I'm also joined by my colleagues, Gus Sanchez and Jenna Selhab. And so we are cyber advisors here at Project Spectrum. Our job is essentially to help you guys as small businesses and big businesses alike to achieve your CMMC goal. So whether it's level 1, level 2, rare cases level 3, that's our job is to ensure that you guys meet those requirements. So as I go through this presentation, I'll talk about CMMC, but then at the end, we'll talk about exactly what we do at Project Spectrum and how we can help you guys going forward. So that being said, I know Pedro talked about exactly what CMMC is, but essentially I'll just kind of reemphasize here. CMMC is a program that the government deployed to help make sure that external businesses, so you small businesses doing contract work for the government, protect their sensitive information. That's all this program is essentially about, is how you protect the government's data. So in this case, either FCI for federal contract information or CUI controlled and classified information. And later on, I'll talk about exactly what that entails. And so I'll talk about exactly how you can identify the difference between the two and what it also, how you're actually supposed to protect it as well. And so there are some default clauses you want to make sure you abide by. And so one of the default clauses is 7012. With 7012, this is first making sure at minimum, when working with the government, you at least have NIST 171 controls implemented at a minimum, and then also making sure you have your you have your cybersecurity incident response procedures aligned with the reporting requirements within 7012. So that's making sure that any incidents that are detected and identified that they're reported within a timely manner to the DoD Assessment Center. And that's 7012 for you, right? Now it's 7019, DFAR 7019. This is about making sure that you have a triannual assessment done. So level 2 and 3 consist of making sure that there's either a self-attestation for level 2 or level 1, right? Or if you have a C3PEO assessment for level 2 or a DIPCAC assessment, which is the government conducting their assessment at level 3. And those have to be done on a triannual basis. So you have your annual affirmation, which is just essentially saying, hey, we are following our controls like we're supposed to protect your data. That's every year. But then the actual assessment, so whether it's the self-assessment or C3PO assessment or DIPCAC assessment, those are done every 3 years. So by the time it's the 4th year, you have to get another assessment completed. So just keep in mind, CMMC is continuous program that you must keep upholding your end of the bargain in terms of working with the government. With DFAR 7020, this here is about making sure that the government has access to your environment. And so there's 2 reasons why government may need access to your environment. One being that if you're going for level 3, that's where the government conducts their assessment, acting as if they are a C3PO organization, right? That's only for level 3. That's one part of the reason why they need access. The other part to it as well is making sure that their data is protected. And so that could essentially be they may have to audit you guys for whatever the reason is, or essentially just make sure to go back on certain requirement statuses. They may need to see other artifacts you guys submitted before in your previous certification assessment, and they just want to look back at a couple of artifacts. Whatever the reason is, they are allowed to go ahead and conduct an audit of your business. So it's always imperative to make sure you have the correct artifacts when going through the assessment and to maintain those artifacts even post your assessment up until even the next assessment that comes up. And now the other one, 7021, this here is the I would say the bigger or more important DFARs of them all, because this is the one that's going to really pertain to you guys in terms of how do you meet that requirement, right? So all of these DFARS clauses you have to follow, but 21 is going to tell you exactly what the requirement is that you need to meet. And this is the part where, when we're talking about the 48 rule coming November 10th of this year, this is going to be the part where cores insert the 7021 into each of the contracts and tell you what the requirement is. So whether it's level 1 or it's level 2 or it's level 3 and the type of level 2 that it could possibly be, the core will go ahead and establish what that is under the 7021 clause within the contract. And so that being said, this is going to be my segue into the 48 rule. So when November 10th comes along, right, this is going to apply proactively to all the contracts going forward, right? And it's going to be a 3-phased approach. In this 3-phased approach, basically 2025 all the way to 2028. That's when it'll be done with the last phase of phase 3 by 2028. With this year, when it begins November 10th, it's essentially starting off with select certain contracts, right? Stating which ones need to be or need to have a certain requirement within the contract itself. And again, this is only applies to contracts going forward, not retroactively. And so there'll be certain contracts that already have a requirement that'll state whether it needs to be level 1, level 2, if it's self-attestation or a C3PEO, it'll establish that. Now, when it goes into phase 2, it's just going to amplify and spread across even more contracts. And then phase 3, it'll be applied to all contracts working with the government. So that's essentially what the 48 rule is. It's the act of contracting officers stating and defining within the contract what the CMMC requirement is. And so you'll see another DFARS clause called 7025. That DFARS clause is going to be the notice of the requirement. It'll basically, and that's exactly all it is, it's a notice stating you as the organization need to meet whatever that requirement is that'll be under the 7021. And so here's what 7025 is going to point out. It's going to point out that you as an organization pre-award need to at least meet at that level, either final conditional, and it'll state, and the core will state whether or not conditional is an option. But in the event that it is, it'll state, hey, conditional or final, and then making sure that you have everything updated within your within the SPURS system. at the time of award. So now that you guys have been selected, right? The government will go and check to make sure, hey, are you guys meeting that requirement? Do you guys actually do what you said you guys did in the pre-award? And so the government will check the SPURS system and make sure that you guys do have your affirmations up to date, your ID, all your UIDs are up to date. Any conditional statuses are either addressed and turned into final, or even the status of your poem. Again, the core is going to determine what that looks like. And then even post-award, making sure that you maintain that certification, maintain your affirmations, close any poems out prior to losing that conditional state, and make sure you get the final state in time. And then, of course, keeping your unique identifiers up to date within SPURS. All right. So that's what that 7025 is going to point out. Now, I don't have to go down the list of the benefits of CMMC, right? We all know this is going to open up a lot of opportunities to work with the government. It's great cyber hygiene. Also helps your business internally, operationally, allows you to guys work a lot more efficiently. You understand exactly where your data is. You're better protected against threats, better protection around your vulnerabilities, and also just allows you to work with others as well, as the requirements are going to be enforced going forward when it comes to working with the DoD. Now, you heard me mention a bunch of different assessment types, or really just the 3 assessment types here. And so I'll break it down through each level. So as you know, there's 3 levels within CMMC: level 1, level 2, and level 3. Now, with level 1 only applies to those who only handle FCI, or Federal Contract Information. That's the only time a level 1 applies, right? And there's 15 security requirements. Level 1 is considered the basic or foundational level of CMMC, so a lot less requirements, and it's only when handling FCI. Now, level 2 and level 3 both handle CUI, right? And so these are aligned. Level 1's aligned with the FAR 21, but level 2 is aligned, and 3 are both aligned with 171. But then with level 3, it has 24 additional controls aligned with 172. And so, that being said, when it comes to level 2, there are 110 requirements that need to be met. And so with level 3, there's 134. So it's the same 110 plus the additional 24. And so with these assessments, they're done triannually. So as you see at level 1, it's an annual self-assessment, and there's only a self-assessment with level 1, along with an annual affirmation. Every level has an annual affirmation. That is simply the senior official of the organization confirming that you guys are still meeting the control requirements within your organization. You're still protecting the government's data, as you guys initially stated, and then you upload that statement within SPURS. The assessment part is where you reinforce and show an update of the report of where you guys currently stand in terms of all the requirements within that level, in this case, level 2. So with level 2, you can also have a self-attestation or self-assessment completed as well. You just have to make sure you do that every 3 years, if that's the requirement. Now, if the requirement is a C3PL level 2, same deal, annual affirmation, but you have to make sure you have the C3PL conduct that assessment once every 3 years as well. And so when it comes to level 3, before you can even get to level 3, so for those thinking like, hey, I want to get to that, I want to be at the highest level, right? At level 1 or level 2, if you have not started, you can start off at either level 1 or level 2 if you're not on a DoD contract. If you are currently on a DoD contract, talk with your prime or talk with the contracting officer to see what the requirement may need to be, or also confirm if you are working with CUI or FCI. If you're working with only FCI, level 1 is where you're at. If you're working with CUI, you are at level 2. Whether or not if it's the self-assessment or the C3PO will all depend on what the core will end up requiring for that contract. But at minimum, if you're working with CUI, you are at level 2. You would need to start there. Now, for those of you not on the contract, hey, you don't have to start at level 1. You can jump straight to level 2 if need be. Obviously, a lot more work at level 2 compared to level 1 because of the 15 requirements in level 1 compared to the 110 requirements in level 2. And so just keep that in mind. But you're free to start at level 1 and level 2 if you're not on the contract at all. And if you are, understand what type of data you're handling, FCI or CUI, and that'll determine what level you need to be at, or at least start at. And then if you're trying to get to level 3, you have to have at least a level 2 C3PO certification first. So not working on it, you have to already be certified at the C3PAO level already. And then you can get to level 3. Only then can you actually get to level 3. Have to be C3PAO certified first. And then level 3 can be started there. Now, I'll talk about the different types of assessments. So you have the 3, you have your self-assessment, your certification assessment, that's going to be done by the C3PAO, or the CMMC status investigation / DIPCAC assessment, which is basically the government conducting the assessment. So I'll start off first with the self-assessment. With self-assessments, right, it could be a level 1 or level 2. You must meet all security requirements. And then you could be at, in this case, this applies for level 2, you could be at conditional or final. When you're at conditional state, that means you have an open POAM or project plan of action and milestones. You guys have those open, meaning you have corrective actions that you still need to address that you have not completed. You can receive a passing score within your self-assessment. However, the open POAMs, and again, this only applies to level 2. With level 1, you need to either meet or not meet it. POAMs are not part of level 1, but for level 2, POAMs are a part of it. And so if you do have open POAMs for level 2 during your self-assessment, you can receive what's called a conditional status of CMMC, meaning, you pass, but you still have things you need to address first. And you have 180 days from that date that the status of conditional is applied that you have to address those POAMs. So you have to make sure you close those POAMs out through the poem closeout process and update that within SPURS to receive your final designation for CMMC. And then making sure that, again, this applies to level 2, that you conduct that self-assessment every 3 years and submit it to SPURS. And that's in addition to doing your annual affirmation as well. And then lastly, and this applies both for self-assessments and the C3PO assessments, making sure that you have those artifacts you submitted during that CMMC review process or assessment process. Make sure you have those artifacts retained for at least 6 years. And that's essentially for the government to see. One, it covers you as a business, right? Like, here's what we submitted, here's how we've been meeting the controls. But then also, if the government conducts an investigation, you can provide them the information that they will need, and they'll request from you as a business to conduct their investigation about if you're meeting those CMMC requirements. Now, the next part, certification assessment. So essentially, this is talking about level 2 C3PAO assessment. So this is going to be a certified third-party assessor organization that's going to come into your environment and assess the scope of which you are processing, storing, or transmitting CUI. In this case, CUI, right? And so for this part here, again, met or not met in terms of security requirements. If you receive the passing minimum score, which is 88, but still have open POAMs, you'll receive that conditional statement. And again, you have 180 days to address to close out those POAMs, right? It has to be closed out within those 180 days. If not, then you no longer will have the conditional status, and you will not have a status of CMMC certification at all. So you want to make sure that if you do obtain the conditional statement or conditional status of CMMC, you have the 180 days from that date to close out those POAMs. All right, so you want to make sure that you are in good position to close out any POAMs that may be open that are discovered during that assessment. And then again, once that's completed, the C3PO will go ahead and submit their report within instantiation of EMAS. And then you'll make sure that you have to upload your artifacts also within SPURS. And again, make sure that you have that third-party assessor organization conduct another assessment once every 3 years. And same deal, keep those same artifacts for 6 years. So again, for the same reasons for the government to be able to access. Now, lastly, comes the CMMC status investigation or DIPCAC assessments. So remember I mentioned about DFAR 7020. The government needs to have access to your enclave. And here's the reason why. Level 3, they do conduct the DIBCAC assessment. And so they go through the 134 requirements, right? And they'll probably essentially leverage and make sure you kept up the C3PO assessment, but then they'll take a look themselves and then especially focus on the 24 controls aligned with 172. So they conduct their assessment and they're the ones who grant the level 3 certification. Now, let's say it's not about level 3. Let's say you guys have been reported, by somebody, or an incident occurred, and when you reported that incident to the DoD center, they determine like, hey, there needs to be an investigation. The government has the right to investigate your enclave. Again, remember what's within scope, right? To investigate your enclave to make sure that you're protecting their data. Now, let's say, for instance, they discover, hey, you guys aren't fully meeting all the requirements. The sad part here is okay, gotcha. The sad part here is, let's say they for whatever reason they found out, hey, you guys aren't protecting our information like you should. Now, we're going to revoke your status. They can supersede the status of your CMMC certification. They can override it. So if you have this, if you have the C3PO, hey, they gave you guys a cert, you guys were good to go, but then you guys didn't upkeep the cyber hygiene to make sure you're protecting the information. All that money you spent can go right down the drain because because government can go ahead and revoke that status. And if that happens, you could be ineligible to win additional awards. You'll suffer some severe penalties as well. You can be fined up. I think even when I was going through CMC courses myself, it could be up to 2 to 3 times the amount of the contract. It could be about almost 12,000 per incident. So in other words, it could be a lot of money lost, right? And so we don't want anyone to be in that position. And there's a lot of checks and balances within CMMC to make sure that doesn't happen, right? And so it's a matter of just making sure that you're not only going through the process of meeting the requirements the first time, but continuously meeting those requirements even after everything is done, right? So having the annual affirmation, conducting the triannual assessments if it's level 2 or level 3. If it's level 1, doing the annual assessment and the annual affirmation. And then just making sure you follow the policies and procedures that you've implemented within your organization. So you're going to be mentioning about a lot of FCI and CUI. So again, FCI standing for Federal Contract Information, CUI standing for Controlled Unclassified Information. So remember, CMMC is only about protecting the government's data. That's how the government sees it. This program is for their benefit. Hey, we're giving you guys information. We want to know how you guys protect it. Now, both these things can be classified as sensitive information. And while it's sensitive, one is a little bit more sensitive than the other, but both need to be protected, right? And so I'll talk about exactly how you break it down in terms of what's FCI versus CUI. But first, let me just give you an example in terms of FCI and CUI. So with FCI, right, this information here, sensitive, and you don't want it out to the public, but it's not going to be as impactful as if CUI is compromised, right? And so just to give you an example, let's say you're in your house and you have you want to hire a contractor to conduct some work, and they send you an invoice. Now, that invoice may only have just simply the price, the work that's going to be done, and perhaps like your address and your name, right? Sensitive information, right, that you would not want out or you would not want compromised, but not a huge impact. Still an impact, right? People who may know where you live, or they can aggregate to other things, but still a bad case, but not as bad, right? Let's say that same invoice also had your social security number, right? Now that's where CUI comes into play. Now social security numbers out there, a lot of worse things can happen, right? As opposed to just simply an invoice, right? But having that personal information like that, that could trace right back to, could lead to even fraud or anything like that. So we want to make sure that you have the right protections in place when it comes to FCI and CUI. Let me go back. And so the difference between the two, and I'll kind of get into it as you saw on the next slide there, is not only how you protect it, right? So again, FCI is level 1 only 15 requirements. It's the basic level or the foundational level. CUI requires a level 2 or advanced, or level 3, which is the expert level. And of course, there's the disparity between the controls is, vastly different. Level 1, 15, only 15 controls to protect FCI, where CUI, you need the 110, and at level 3, the 134. And so as you can tell, the more impact information requires the more controls surrounded by it. So that being said, how do you determine what's FCI and CUI? Always instruct folks to ask themselves 3 questions to help them, right? The first question is it publicly available, right? So if it's something that's on a website, just open to the public, it's not going to be FCI or CUI. Now that does not mean, and there's controls for this, that does not mean that someone can make a mistake and unintentionally put FCI or CUI on a website, right? That's still, like, even though it's on a public forum, it should not be there. So that would be an incident. But anything that's publicly available is not going to be FCI or CUI. Now, let's say, all right, we have some information that's not publicly available, good to go there. So then you move on to the next question. Is it on behalf of the government? If it's not on behalf of the government, it's not going to be considered FCI or CUI, right? Remember, that's what this program is about. It's about protecting the government's sensitive data. And so you may have information that's not, available to the public, but it's not on the behalf of the government. And so those things may be sensitive to you as the organization, but it's not on the behalf of the government or for the government. So it's not going to be classified as FCI or CUI. That's just going to be something that you guys as a business need to protect. Now, let's say it is on the behalf of government. So whether if it's a project schedule, whether if it's a specifications in terms of how you guys are going to achieve whatever the project is, whatever the case is. If it's about the government, if it's about the project or about the proposal, whatever the case is, that's when it turns into on behalf of the government. Now let's say that it is. Now you ask yourself the final question, and this question here separates between if it's going to be FCI or CUI. Is it protected by law, regulation, or government policy? If the answer is yes, then it's CUI. You want to go to the actual CUI registry to see what category it falls underneath and make sure you follow those handling procedures for that type of CUI. If it's not protected by law, regulation, or government policy, remember I gave the invoice as an example for FCI versus Social Security number that's part of it, or like let's say technical manual about the Navy's submarines. That would be CUI. That needs to be protected. If that gets out, that's a whole different ball game. And a lot of conferences will need to happen. A lot of legal things will take place as well. And so that's the difference between the FCI and CUI. One's CUI is a lot more detrimental if compromised, requires way more requirements surrounding it to protect it. And talks a little bit more detail, right? Where FCI is more so just things related to the contract itself, but not necessarily information that's protected by law, regulation, or government policy. And I'll go over some examples of what that looks like as well. So here's some examples of what FCI looks like. Again, we're talking about delivery dates, project status, just simple emails about between government and contractors, shipping information, things of that nature. These are some examples that you can just take a look at and see, hey, yeah, these things you do not want getting out, but if compromised, right, it doesn't have a huge impact on the nation, right? Still an impact nonetheless. So that's why it still needs to be protected, but it getting out, won't have a severe impact as it would if it was CUI. Now, here's some examples of CUI. And as you can see, things get a little bit more interesting, from social security numbers to NDAs, proprietary contractor information that's, again, being created on behalf of government. So in that case, let's say you guys are creating an application for government, right? That's proprietary to you guys as a business, but also it's on the behalf of government. So you want to make sure that stuff is, well protected. So again, CMMC is not here to make your lives harder. It's actually to make your lives a lot easier, and also gives you peace of mind not only to the government, which is your client, right, but also peace of mind to yourself as well. So in the event that there are incidents, and incidents do happen, that's just part of cybersecurity. This here, there's never 100% bulletproof against everything. The hackers are always going to be a step ahead of us. It's just us to react and make sure we have things in place to protect ourselves and to mitigate the damage. And so by having the right controls in place to protect yourself from from incidents, or to respond to incidents correctly, you want to make sure you have things in place to capture those things, and also be able to react in an efficient way that will protect not only yourself but also your clients as well. Now, for the pitfalls, I could go through levels 1 and 2. They're essentially the same thing. It's one, making sure that you understand what the scope of your environment is. CMMC is not about assessing your entire environment. It's not what it's about. It's about assessing the environment that processes, stores, or transmit CUI or FCI, or in short, the sensitive information. Remember, this is about the government's data. That's what all this is about. So you want to first understand your scope of your environment. That's number one. By understanding the scope of your environment, you also need to understand the information flow. So you want to see where FCRCY originates, and how it's processed within your enclave, and how it's provided as output back to the government. So you want to understand exactly which systems it touch, who has access to those systems, where that data may go, whether it's remote to someone else's home, or whether it's on site. You want to make sure you track all those things, and then making sure once you understand those things, if you want to, let's say, shrink or reduce the scope of that information, you'll be able to do so because you understand the lay of land when it comes to how your organization processes, stores, or transmit FCR CUI. Now, all that being said, right? So for us here at Project Spectrum, our goal is to help you guys, small and large businesses alike, to attain and achieve your CMMC goals. So whether that's level 1, whether that's level 2, or level 3, we want to make sure that we help you guys achieve whatever that goal is. And so for us, and working here with Pedro here in regards to Project Spectrum, um, our job, one, is to help you guys cross the finish line, right? So there is no duration or anything like that in terms you can work with us. We work with you guys all the way until the very end. On top of that, the best part about this, working with Pedro and other Apex centers as well, is we come at no cost to you guys, right? So there's no cost associated or anything like that. It's essentially, we work with you. We are funded through our own government contract, so that's why we're able to do this. So we're able to work with you guys as an organization one by one, and I'll kind of touch base on what this services look like when you guys work with us. But if you want to learn more, and you'll have my information as part of the slide deck that I'll send over to Pedro, which I'm sure he'll get to everyone here on the call. Feel free to reach out to us through our help desk email, and we'll be able to get in touch with you guys shortly and schedule some time to sit down and talk with you guys one-on-one with your organizations, and help build a plan to get you guys certified based on whatever level you guys are going for. Now, that being said, I'll touch base on kind of what this looks like from a high level view. And again, for more information, reach out to us and we'll talk about this in even more detail. But essentially at phase 1, at this point, we've done a kickoff with you, as a cyber advisor talking to the organization. And we essentially, what we end up doing is assessing your current environment. So we'll want to know exactly what artifacts you guys currently have, where you guys currently stand, and you may not have everything in place, and that's okay. Our job is, we're acting like the doctors, right? We want to see where you hurt, where it hurts, right? Where you're feeling good and where it hurts. And so we're going to review your artifacts and see exactly where you're currently at. And then we start to devise a plan of assessing the gaps, which is phase 2, where we develop a gap analysis in terms of We see exactly what you guys have and what you guys are missing. And then what you guys are missing, we go ahead and create a plan of action, a milestone, also known as a POAM for short, or a corrective action if you're talking about level 1. And so here, this is where we devise or create the plan for you in terms of how to actually address the gap that we've identified. And so the part that comes into play when it comes to phase 4 and control implementation, so we know some businesses, you guys may not have a full IT staff, or may not have none at all, or you may hire an outside contractor to help implement the controls. We welcome all of that because that's the part where we need you guys, which is phase 4, is control implementation. So keep this in mind. With us, we provide advisory services. So we will assess your artifacts, provide comments. We will walk you through each requirement. We will help you build out the processes, etc. We'll even create the POAMs for you as we go through it, right? But your responsibility will be to make sure you implement the controls. So we'll tell you exactly what it is you need to do. We'll walk you through what you need to do, and we'll even help. And we also have templates you guys can leverage as well. But then we need you guys to actually implement the controls, and that's where the IT staff or the external consultant comes in and assists you guys there. And so essentially, as we're meeting back and forth, as we're going through your controls, identifying the gaps, creating the POAMs, in between calls, it'll be you guys that'll let us know where your status currently is at in regards to the POAM and the control implementation. Now, once we get through all the control requirements, so whether or not it's 15 at level 1 or the 110 at level 2, or even the 134 level 3, what ends up happening is at phase 5, we'll go ahead and do what we call a mock assessment. Essentially, we'll help gather all of your evidence and artifacts to show and prove that you guys are meeting the controls within that CMMC level. And then we'll document again any gaps that we may find and go ahead and go back to make sure we have some plan of action or POAM or corrective actions in place to address the gaps that we've identified. Then once you give it the thumbs up, and let's say for those of you who are going for a level 2 C3PAO, we'll point you guys to the CyberAB marketplace to select who that C3PAO will be to assess your organization, that's something you guys do. So you want to shop around if you're going for the C3PAO level 2. If you're just doing the level 2 or level 1 self-attestation, after phase 5, you just conduct that self-attestation, which you could leverage our self-attestation survey on our website and conduct and use that to submit that in the Spurs. But if you're going for the C3PAO and you selected your C3PAO, at that point, we become liaisons for you guys as support, in which will help gather your evidence, which we've already done within phase 5, right? But then also we're there to ask or to answer any questions you may ask us that you can't necessarily ask the assessor. So we'll make sure to help you guys, assist you guys throughout that assessment process when the assessor's, on site. And then once the assessor provides the post-assessment report, that's when we'll go back and take a look at the things, maybe you receive that passing score, but then there's some things you still need to address. That's where the POAMs come into place, and that's where you get that conditional statement. Remember, you have 180 days to close out those POAMs from the date of the certification status that's given. So if you get that conditional status, we'll make sure to help you guys close out the remaining areas of improvement, and then help you guys go throughout the POAM closeout process and update in Spurs, so that way you're good to go and get that final designation status. And then at phase 8, this is you guys as a little baby bird leaving the nest in terms of making sure that you can continue to follow the controls you guys implemented, enforcing the good cyber hygiene, making sure you do your annual affirmations and your tri-annual assessments, or annual assessments if you're level 1, and make sure you continue to do that to stay in good standing and to continue also working with the government. Now, as I mentioned before, here at Project Spectrum, we help businesses obtain their level 1, level 2, and in rare cases, level 3 certification. So we walk you through each requirement for each level. And so, that being said, you can also go on our website and create an account, and you'll be able to have access to all, and this is at no cost to you guys, right? You can access all our templates, our recorded webinars, any training courses, along with scheduling to meet with cyber advisors such as myself or Jenna or Gus to conduct those one-on-one meetings like I was talking about. And you can meet with us as well. So you can leverage that right now. Even without meeting with us right now, you can take a look at what we have on the website and download those and use those, to your advantage. It's customizable, use it to your liking. A lot of the work for some of these docs are already done. It's a matter of just, making sure it lines up with your processes and just, putting your logo and stuff on there. So we want to make, again, we're here to help you guys achieve your CMMC status, from start to finish. And so leverage us as cyber advisors and also leverage our tools as well to help you guys get through this process. And again, this is all at no cost. And so that being said, when we start meeting with you guys one-on-one, uh, one thing's for sure, you'll let us know your availability. We understand that you may not be able to make every single call, and that's why we're going to lean on you to tell us when your availability is and what best works for you, whether it's once a month, whether it's bi-weekly, weekly, whatever the case is. We want to make sure that we're meeting at a time that works best for you. We are very flexible, so we know you can't make every call. Just let us know. We'll be able to, flex that meeting as need fit. And so, we'll get into that in more detail when we work with you guys one-on-one. But essentially, uh, you know, it's whatever you put into is what you get out of it, right? So some folks may work faster than others. Some may work slower than others. It doesn't bother us one bit. We want to make sure you guys get across that finish line. And on top of that, when working with us, we always do a monthly touch point with the Apex centers as well. So we'll provide reports in terms of where you guys are at in the process in terms of working with us. So whether you're at the phase one, phase two, phase three, etc., we'll make sure to report that back to the Apex Center so that way they understand what's going on with you guys. Then also it kind of just allows you guys to see where you guys started and where you guys are going and how the progress is going as well, not just for the centers but also for you guys as the client. So we want to make sure that you guys are staying on your course to achieve that CMMC status. Now, I always like to start the slide off by saying, we help all businesses alike. So if you feel like, hey, we're just getting started, we don't have any duty contracts, don't worry. Our services work for you as well. So again, if you're interested, you'll reach out to that help desk email, which I'll show you guys at the end here, and then we'll get in touch with you. But also, we want to make sure to prioritize the businesses that fall within these three buckets here. So you're currently on a DoD contract, all right? You're actively pursuing a DoD contract, or you're pending an award of a contract. And this is very important because remember, with the 48 rule beginning November 10th of this year, and it's going to apply to contracts going forward, there will be a requirement that may be established that you'll have to meet prior to. So we want to make sure, especially those currently on a contract where the option year could be, March or whatever the case is. We want to make sure that you guys are ahead of that, so that way you guys don't lose out on that contract or lose out on any other business. So we want to make sure that we prioritize these folks as well to make sure that they meet the requirement and don't lose out on any money. Now, for those of you not currently on a contract, again, we also work with you as well. But let's say, hey, I don't know if I want to be at level 1 or level 2. I always say this: it all depends on what your business goals and objectives are. Obviously, there'll be more opportunities probably, and it's probably going to be bigger contracts, right, when it comes to level 2 compared to level 1. But all can be different. But if budget is a thing, let's say, for example, you're not going to do the contract. You kind of just want to at least start somewhere. Start level 1, 15 requirements. It's easy, a lot easier to handle for if you have a one-man shop for IT or one consultant to help implement controls. Level 1, it's only 15 requirements, a lot easier to handle, and at least you're getting started. You have at least a CMMC status, a level 1, which again, there's opportunities for level 1 as well. If, hey, you know what, I want to be proactive and have better a better cyber hygiene. I want more of the advanced. You want to be at level 2. Well, you can start at level 2, right? Remember, you don't have to start at level 1. You can start at level 1 or level 2. The only time you have to be level 2 certified already is if you're trying to go level 3. and that has to be a C3PO level 2 certification. So, and level 3 is rare. It's rare right now. Now, of course, that could change as years go by, but for now, level 3 is fairly rare. So level 2 is usually the good sweet spot there. But essentially, C3POs are not cheap, very, very pricey. So if you're ambitious, you want to start a level 2, start a level 2 self-attestation, right? You don't have to pay for a C3PO at the time. You just simply go through the same 110 requirements, but you just do the self-attestation as opposed to the C3PO. Again, you're going to be in good standing, right? Once you do the self-attestation and submit that in the Spurs, and there's opportunities there too for the self-attestations. And then in the event, let's say you see a contract where the requirement is C3PO, you've already done all the hard work. You just need the C3PO to come in and assess the organization. Now, let's say a different instance. Let's say you're a sub working with the prime, and that prime has or handles CUI, but you too as a sub handles CUI. You have to meet whatever the requirement is that the prime is when it comes to handling CUI, with the exception of if the requirement is for the prime is a level 3 CMMC certification, then as a sub, all you have to be is level 2 C3PO certified. That's it. That's the one and only time when both parties handle CUI, meaning the prime and sub both handle CUI, they have to match the requirement. So if the requirement is level 2 self-attestation, both of you have to be. If the requirement is level 2 C3PO, both of you have to be. But if the requirement is level 3 for the prime, for the sub, it's only level 2 C3PAO. That's it. Now, if the prime handles CUI, no matter what the prime does, right? If they're handling CUI, if you as a subcontractor only handle FCI only, you only need to be level 1. So keep that in mind. So I say that to say this. If you are in a place where you work with the prime and you both handle CUI, and the prime's looking at you to make sure you get your C3PAO, and let's just say you're not in a position to afford a C3PAO, you can always adjust the scope. Meaning, instead of you guys handling CUI, talk with the prime that, hey, we're going to make sure that CUI only flows through your environment. So that way, all we have to do is meet the level 1 requirements. You can do that. It's all about reducing scope, which, by the way, we have a webinar coming in December where we talk about scoping. So we'll provide information more on that come December. But yes, you can always change or reduce scope so that way it fits your business needs. So just because you might find yourself in a place where it's like, hey, we're on this contract, we don't want to lose this contract, but we don't have money for the C3PAO, no worries. Talk with your prime, adjust. And again, if you understand your scope, you'll know where CUI flows throughout your environment. Make sure you look at that and understand that. So then that way, if you're trying to reduce scope or remove yourself completely out of handling CUI and only handling FCI, so you're just at level 1, you have to understand your scope, and then you can negotiate or talk with the prime in terms of, hey, we want all this information to only flow through your environment, and you can do it that way as well. The scoping is what's going to play a big part in terms of how much the assessment will cost, the requirements that you need to meet, and then also again the contract as well, right? So you want to make sure that whatever it is, right, whatever that requirement is, that you meet the requirement, and if you can't, try adjusting the scope so that it fits your business goals and objectives. As I mentioned before, I will send you guys this slide deck, but if you are interested, again, sign up, go to our website, create an account. You can get access to all our templates, webinars, trainings, etc. And then also, if you want to reach out to a cyber advisor, go to this support or email the support link here. It'll go in our database, and then the cyber advisor will reach out to you within 48, 72 hours, and then they'll coordinate a meeting time or kickoff time with you guys as a business to go ahead and start that CMMC journey. And that's when we'll establish how often we're meeting, etc. All right. Here's our information. For any centers that may be on here, Mark Chisholm is our webinar organizer. So if you want more webinars such as this one, go ahead and reach out to our good friend Mark here. He'll go ahead and coordinate any webinars that you guys may want to plan, and then we'll kind of go from there. All right. So that's the presentation. I'll go ahead and give the floor back over to you, Pedro. And I hope all the questions were answered. Or if you guys do have any questions, now is the time to ask them. So Pedro, over to you.
Thank you, Michael. And thank you, Gus. Thank you, Gina. I know that there have been a lot of chat going on, and most of the answer has been provided. But if anyone has any question, please just raise your hand and we will open the mic. Cualquier pregunta que puedan tener, este es el momento. La pueden hacer tanto en español como en inglés. Tienen a Gus que habla español y él puede traducirla. Así que en confianza. Maricel y ya empezaron a abrir las preguntas, así que vamos a comenzar a abrir los micrófonos.
Micrófonos están disponibles.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep, this is Diana Diaz from Anibal Diaz Construction. I'm a construction contractor at Fort Buchanan. Okay. My contract is only handled by service orders. All right. So the information I get is it's a preset contract with quantities and the price according to that quantities and that sort of thing. Now, you mentioned that for me to establish my kind of level, I should reach out to my CORs or my MIC contact, my contract specialist. They are all out. So what can I do?
Okay, yeah, no worries there. So remember that 48 rules November 10th, and it's not like it starts instantly that day. It's just going to be contracts going forward. And so you'll have to make sure you're talking with that contracting officer because they're going to be the ones determining this. And so also just to reemphasize, remember with the 48 rule, it's a 3-phased approach. And so 2020 is when it'll be across the board working with the government in totality. Phase 1, it's going to be a select contracts. It's going to be select few contracts. I'm not sure, how they're going to select it, but it's going to be select few. So it's not going to apply right away, right? But it's something you definitely want to get ahead of. And so I would talk with your contracting officer to see, what's going to come down the pipeline. And then from there, you'll be able to know, all right, I need to be a level 1. All right, I need to be a level 2, whatever the case is. And so you want to definitely make sure you get with them, but it's not going to, happen. It's not an instant thing. It's a phased approach that they're doing.
Because I know I had signed some kind of documentation that I cannot have a certain brand of equipment, and that has been all assessed and taken care of. We upgraded on IT. So I'm far along in this system for now, but is there anywhere where I can go and read while they come back so that I don't like to leave things pending. I'm that type of a person. I'm sorry.
Let me actually, no, you're asking all the right things. Let me do this. I'm going to put this in the chat here. So what I'm about to post is a link to the official CMMC work, right? So this here has everything, right? It has all the different assessment guides, scoping guides, etc. And so so take a look at, and let me just tell you so that way you're not getting overwhelmed because it's showing a list of things. The main things you'll want to take a look at, right, are the level, and then again, if you're going for level 1 or level 2, but go for the assessment guides.
Perfect.
Right? Scoping guides as well. You want to look at the scoping guides too. But the assessment guides will talk about the actual controls. And remember, with level 2, it's aligned with 171. Level 3 is aligned with 172 plus the 171. And then level 1 is assigned to the FAR 21. And so look at the scoping guide. And again, depending on if you want to go level 1 or level 2, right? But look at the scoping guide. It's going to tell you what things will be in scope, what to think about when creating your scope. And then also level or the assessment guides talk about each of the requirements. So for level 2, the 110, for level 1, the 15.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, sir.
Yep, no problem. believe there's someone else had their hand up as well.
Yes, it was me. I have a question, 3 questions actually.
Okay.
About the scope of Project Spectrum services. Is the free service offered by Project Spectrum available only to DoD contractors, or can it also be used by any federal contractor looking to prepare their company for CMMC compliance?
It could be anybody.
Anybody? Perfect.
Yep.
Two more questions. If a CPA firm, as I am a CPA, I have a CPA firm, has a client with a DoD contract, and as part of the service that it processes, let's say, client payroll and handles PII of the employees of that DoD contractor, would that CPA firm be required to comply with any level at all of CNC certification, given that it has indirect access to information connected to the contract?
Right. So that's a good question there. And so what you're talking about are external service providers, which will be found in that scoping document that I was just talking about. So the thing with that is this, right? So when you work with external service providers, one is make sure you have that shared responsibility matrix. And so when you look at whatever the controls are, you want to be able to say this organization meets or is responsible for these specific controls. Now, when it comes to ESPs, it's one or two things. It'd be great if they are, CMMC certified. That would be great. They do not have to be. What they need to do is make sure they meet specific minimum requirements, right? That's going to be the main thing, making sure they at least meet like for example, if it's cloud service providers, making sure if they're not FedRAMP certified, for example, they need to make sure they at least have the equivalency of FedRAMP, meaning they have to have controls that are equivalent to a FedRAMP secured cloud service provider, or in this case, or in your case, they need to make sure that there's been some type of assessment conducted, maybe not CMMC, but whether it's SOC 2, whatever the case is, something that states like, hey, they're meeting the requirement. And so the assessor will go and look at that shared responsibility matrix, meaning they'll look at, hey, your company said, or this company said, you guys are responsible for these controls. How are you guys meeting these controls? The assessor's going to take a look at that and assess that organization based on those set of controls that they're responsible for. So even though you guys are the OSC, meaning you're the organization seeking certification, so you'll have to abide by all the CMMC the CMMC requirements within your realm. Anyone that you're working with that's responsible for those other requirements don't have to succumb to the CMMC certification, but they definitely need to meet the actual control.
Okay, and the last one, that's more than like a business opportunity, I think. What are the requirements for an entity, let's say a CPA firm or a CISA firm, to become a C3PAO, to assess or certify the DoD, to help our clients to be certified with the CMMC framework? It's a formal accreditation. Is there anyone in Puerto Rico, if you know?
So I'm about to post another thing in here. So when it comes to CMMC, there are only authorized C3PAOs allowed to conduct the assessment. It can't just be anybody. And so you have to go to the Cyber AB Marketplace, which is, I'm posting this right here, right now. You go to this link, and those are the authorized C3PAOs that can assess your organization for the CMMC certification. They have to be registered within the Cyber AB Marketplace in order to conduct it. In which it's a little wonky on that site, but you can search by state within there, so you'll be able to see who's a C3PAO located within Puerto Rico.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Paul.
Thank you for your presentation, and thank you for your time and for the helpful information. I just wanted to speak to the fact that we are a group of gente de Puerto Rico, so with Puerto Ricans on the island who wanted to get ahead of CMMC and make sure that we had everything we needed. We have 3 RPs on staff, and we actually any day now are supposed to be approved as an RPO, which I understand is just consultants to help people with the prep. And then within the next 3 months, we're looking to be a C3PAO in Puerto Rico.
Nice.
I was just wondering, we looked through all the people on the list. There are only right now, I think, 5 RPs in Puerto Rico, 3 of which are on our team. And when we went through there, we were wondering whether or not there were any benefits for local companies that we are in Puerto Rico on site. I mean, this all seems like this could be done remotely, but have you seen anything where on-site visits for the audits are helpful, in which case we would be doing having that capability for the people on island?
Yes, and so one, by the way, great promotion right there, right? So it's
Thank
good,
you. Sorry.
so good there. But yeah, so yes, on-site assessments are conducted, especially because remember, actually I didn't say it on this call, I said it on a different call. So when it comes to, we look at that scoping guidance, right? So it's level 1, level 2. The main categories are people, technologies, facilities, and external service providers. And then, so within there, facilities being one of them, you'll want to check those facilities as well. So it all depends on the scope of the organization. So if the organization has on-site and FCI or CUI does pass through, or let's say it doesn't pass through, you'll need to either confirm that it doesn't pass through or confirm that it does pass through, either way. But you want to assess their on-sites as well. So yes, great advantage there, and that's something you end up doing anyway. And so as you'll learn, as you guys are building and coming to are building to become a C3PAO, which meaning you'll have CCPs and CCAs as well, in which they'll be, they're trained in this, so they know what the exact process is. But essentially, you do 3 forms of assessments. It's interview, examine, and test. And so part of that is going to require a lot of the things you'll be able to do remotely, right? Some things you could do a walkthrough, but then interviews, again, could be virtual, could be on site, but then also even testing. A lot of that testing may have to happen on site. Some testing can also happen virtual too. All depends on their scope. For those that don't have a brick and mortar building, right? Let's say they're just fully remote. In that case, everything would be virtual, right? But you just want to make sure that there'll be a lot of testing and make sure that CUI or FCI can't pass within pass within those folks' laptops. Let's say they're using a VM, whatever the case is. You just want to make sure the boundaries are what the boundaries are, and that's why the scoping matters. You got to scope first so you can see what's part of it, how the information flows throughout the organization, and then you understand exactly what you need to assess.
All right, thank you so much for that. I actually have just one more last follow-up, very quick.
Yeah,
For instance, a lot of our clients are actually, include the government of Puerto Rico, which use vendors outside of Puerto Rico to do the preliminary work. So there'll be, a cybersecurity breach, and a team comes in from the Dominican Republic to get access to that information and do a report, which I believe would not be acceptable in this situation. So what kind of controls in place are there in kind of, I guess, the C3PO attestation? We had the affirmation, the oath documents that we signed. Never mind. I think I answered my own question. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. But then also just making sure, remember, DFAR 7012 talks about exactly what that incident response is. And then there's also government, I think it's in there as well in terms of who's allowed access to that data. So you want to make sure that data, is not traveling outside
Exactly.
of, United States there. But essentially there, if you look at 7012, it talks about certain things you have to have in place in terms of the way you report incidents. So you're going to have your internal process. Every organization is going to have their internal process for incident response. But then there's in 7012, you have to take whatever that process is and make sure you report it also to the government, or in this case, the DoD Assessment Center. And then they have a certain way in which they like to receive their reports, where you're supposed to upload the artifacts, and then pretty much you talk about how you handle it, how you mitigate it, lessons learned, etc. And so there's certain parts of it that you have to abide by, or organization has to abide by when it comes to incident response. And those control requirements will speak to that. So it's not like it's going to be anything hidden or anything like that.
Yep, that'll be good to cite. Thank you so much. I appreciate
Yep,
it.
no problem. I was trying to...
Anybody else? Well, Michael, I believe that we are at the end of the presentation. Thank you so much.
Yep, no problem. And Pedro, can you let everyone know, in case those who did not understand me, that I'll send out the this slide deck I just showed, along with some information about C3PAO, where they can find and look at the artifacts for CMMC that they can just kind of read on their own. And then I'll also contain the help desk. I think the help desk is in my signature email in case they are interested and want to get started right away. So I'll make sure to provide that information to you as well.
Okay, sir. Will do. And send me also your presentation. And since this is being recorded, we will also make it available to everyone. Ok, para todos los demás, de nuevo, 1.000.000 de gracias, ya estamos finalizando. Estoy compartiendo con ustedes nuevamente nuestra información de contacto. Por favor, si tienen cualquier tipo de duda, si solamente quieren comenzar el proceso, pueden sacar una cita con nosotros para hacer la evaluación inicial. A la misma vez, si es que quieren verificar si ustedes tienen, si actualmente se les requiere todos esos requisitos que se les requiere hoy o eventualmente se les va a requerir, déjenos saber, podemos coordinar una reunión virtual y comenzamos el proceso. Así que con esto dicho, muchísimas gracias a todos.